How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, where we talk everything Bears on a normal basis every day of the week. Feels good to be back. Episode number 228 today. We're going to be discussing the Bears' quarterback position. We have been away a while. There's been a lot going on with a lot of draft prospects, as well as the future of Andy Dalton. So today we're going to be discussing that. But I am your host, Chris Malpe. If you're new to the channel, do us a favor, subscribe and like. We took a couple of weeks break. There was a lot of personal stuff going on, a lot of school going on, a lot of moving going on. So we've been pretty busy throughout the last couple of weeks. But draft month is amongst us. So we are back. We're going to be trying to put out videos every day for you guys, getting down into the draft coverage now. So be sure to do us a favor, subscribe, drop a like if you want Bears content every day of the week. But as I said, I am your host, Chris Malpe. I'm joined by my two normal co-hosts to the right of me, Jaylen McClinton and Parth. Guys, it's been a while. How have you guys been doing? How does it feel to be back?
Feels great. I missed recording, that's for sure. But been on the grind in school. This semester's been a little tough, especially with being online and stuff. But yeah, it's just getting back to the normal swing of things. Excited to talk about the draft, the quarterback situation, anything Bears related. It just gets me excited. So yeah, let's do it.
Same here. It's definitely been up and down. I've been moving lately, so I really haven't been able to record, even though really nobody has been able to record. But I've been dealing with that. And school hasn't really been hard for me, so I've just been mainly chilling and being disappointed by the Bulls' last 6-game losing streak. But we won the game. We beat the Nets on Sunday, so. And we got Nikola Vucevic, so it's been pretty decent for me, other than that.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on, but not a lot with the Bears. I mean, hence us taking a break, there hasn't been a ton going on. It hasn't really been intriguing for the past 2 or so weeks. But, the MLB is back. Cubs, White Sox, I know Parth and I have a good time with that. March Madness just finished off in Indiana. That was a heck of a game last night, so congrats to the Baylor Bears. The Bulls, hopefully they can turn it around. I know we're all happy they got Vucevic a couple of weeks ago. So kudos to them, and I hope they can really turn it around because I'm definitely on the Bulls bandwagon, as well as the Blackhawks. All the Chicago teams have been struggling recently, so hopefully someone can kick it into gear, and the Bears are going to have a chance to kick it into gear here in the upcoming NFL draft. But let's start with Andy Dalton. Obviously, I think the biggest news that came out of us being gone the last couple of weeks is Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy obviously having a press conference about a week ago and saying that Andy Dalton is their QB1, and then the Bears putting obviously stuff out on their social media pages with Dalton in a jersey swap as a Bear, saying QB1 and stuff like that. So I guess we'll just start off with this, boys. Is Andy Dalton going to start the 2021 season as a starter? Do you guys think there's a move that could happen that we haven't seen yet or anything? But Jaylen, I'll start with you. Do you think Andy Dalton walks out there as the Week 1 starter?
More than likely. Every time Pace has said that, the person he said was going to start at the beginning of the season, ended up starting at the beginning of the season. Now, 2 out of the 3 times they didn't end up starting at the end of the season. But with this question, I definitely feel like that Andy Dalton sadly. Well, let me not say sadly, because I don't want to wish wish negativity on him, and he hasn't even.
Not Andy Dalton's fault. He chased the bag.
Yeah, but so definitely he's probably more than likely going to start beginning of the season unless we trade for like Russell Wilson and stuff like that. So rumors are still going out there, right there. But for right now, yes, it's definitely going to be Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I think the Bears are going to look to bring in some sort of competition, whether that be trading up in the NFL draft, whether that be taking a quarterback who is highly touted still in the second round of the NFL draft. I think there's going to be someone else there. I think they do look to move on from Nick Foles. There's been interest in him from Philadelphia as well as Denver, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. But I do think it's Andy Dalton and someone younger. As much as I would say it's not going to happen, I guess you can't rule out Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson only because Ryan Pace is uber aggressive. But I mean, I think it's very obvious that Dalton's going to be the Week 1 starter. But I do think it's not going to happen without some competition, because you got to get someone in here who's going to keep him on his toes, similar to bringing in Foles last year with the Trubisky thing. So, Parth, I'm going to pass it around to you. Bears have been pretty adamant about Dalton being their Week 1 starter. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I think I'm fully convinced that Andy Dalton's going to be our starter Week 1. Probably for the first couple of weeks of the season, I think he's going to be the starter, and then I think a rookie quarterback takes over. I don't expect the Bears to trade for a quarterback at this point or sign another quarterback. But I think the best option would be for us to find a quarterback in the later rounds, and hopefully he can step up to the challenge if needed.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, so be sure to stick around. We're definitely going to talk about some options in the draft, just a little overview summary episode before we get back doing Uncut and everything, our more specific things. But, this one is really an interesting one, because obviously it's 2021, but you look back on 2017, it was a very similar situation with Mike Glennon. Obviously, Pace overpaid him. He came in. Pace said he was going to be the starter. Ended up getting Trubisky. And while Glennon did start the first 4 games of 2017, he was replaced and Trubisky came in. So, Jaylen, I'm going to pass it back around to you. Does this situation remind you of 2017 at all? And could you see it playing out the same way, where the Bears look to grab a quarterback and do a similar type of thing?
Definitely. This definitely reminds me of 2017, except we were kind of excited for Mike Glennon, coming off of Jay Cutler, being injured.
I think that's just because we knew nothing about Glennon at the time. We knew he was like a pretty solid backup, but nothing otherwise.
So we were pretty excited about Glennon, not so much about Andy Dalton, but Andy Dalton is the better quarterback out the two. Especially right now, I think he's a better quarterback than Mike Glennon was when we signed him. So it definitely reminds me of 2017, especially with us, looking to trade Nick Foles. And they've mentioned that they're looking at a possibility of taking a younger quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is another Mike Glennon and Mitchell Trubisky situation, except with Andy Dalton and Kellen Mond or Trey Lance or something like that if we trade up. So, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and it should be interesting. There's a couple very good prospects in the second round, as you mentioned, Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, David Mills out of Stanford, someone whose stock has been rising recently. I do think it's pretty similar to the 2017 situation, though. I get why there's belief in Dalton. He's proved it, I guess, a little bit in the past. And I do agree with you, Jaylen. I think he's better than Mike Glennon, but I don't think the Bears can just, with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace knowing their jobs are on the line. We saw Nagy a couple of days ago say he's going to be calling the plays, and as crappy as that is, I completely understand it. Why would you let anyone else call plays in a year where your job is on the line? So if his job's on the line, if Ryan Pace's job's on the line, I still think there's probably pressure for them to get someone else in here because the quarterback position needs to be addressed. I think even though they did bring in Andy Dalton, they would be pretty stupid to think that that's going to solve all of their problems. So I think someone else is going to come in. We'll see how Dalton does, and it'll play out from there. And it'll be a question whether you trade up, you trade down, you stay where you are, you draft someone in the second round. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is definitely reminiscent of the 2017 situation for me. I'm just not so sure that they trade up to the number 2 spot this year with where they are at 20. But there's some interesting trade up, trade down situations that they could do. Also just stay where they are and draft someone in the second round. But Parth, this seems very reminiscent of the 2017 situation. Mike Glennon is QB1, Andy Dalton is QB1, and then we see a surprise on draft night. So do you see something similar happening later at the end of April?
I hope so. I really hope that the Bears, make a splash for a quarterback in the draft. I think that's our best option. At the end of the day, you can't just leave Andy Dalton as your day 1 starter. He's someone who has been dependable in the league, but he's not going to win those big games. If the Bears want to win those big games with Nagy and Pace's jobs maybe on the hot seat, they better bring in someone who could save their job, and a rookie quarterback usually can do that, especially if he's shown some promise and if he works well with Nagy. Nagy can handpick his dude again. I think he has a good chance of bringing in someone that he likes to get in.
Yeah, and it should be really interesting to see how this plays out. We've seen stuff the last couple of days about the Carolina Panthers after they acquired Sam Darnold, wanting to move down from 8. We've also seen stuff about the Atlanta Falcons being pretty adamant of getting out of the 4 spot which would be really interesting as well. We know the 49ers traded up for 3, and then I think the Eagles traded for 6, something like that. So there's a lot of teams that could use quarterbacks in those first 10 picks. We don't really know how it's going to play out, who's going to drop, but the Bears would definitely have to look to move up if they wanted to get one of those top 5 guys. But there's definitely some interesting second-round options as well. And with the third toughest strength of schedule in 2021, the Bears are going to have to do something. I'd be utterly shocked if they didn't draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. So it should be interesting to see where they go on draft night. And once again, we'll get into that a little bit later. First and foremost, though, before we do get into that draft stuff, let's talk a little bit about this because Nick Foles is still on the roster. There's been reported interest in him from Denver per Benjamin Albright, as well as Philadelphia per ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. So, I don't think there's much discussion that needs to happen here. But boys, would you take anything you could get for Foles at this point?
Yeah, I don't see a reason for Foles being on the team next year.
If we can get a 7th round draft pick, that's a W.
That's a W, exactly.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. So we're all on board that the Bears should try and move on from Nick Foles. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we'd have to pay him some guaranteed money if we cut him. We'll see if a team wants to take on his contract. I'm not quite too sure if one would, but that would surely be nice so we don't have to pay him to leave. Finally, let's get into the most interesting and important topic of this entire podcast, the upcoming NFL draft. It's April. It's the time we decided to come back after taking a little bit of a break in March, and it's NFL draft month. Things are starting to kick back into gear, and we've talked about it this entire episode. There's a lot of ways the Bears can go in the draft, trading up, trading down, staying where you are. You would assume the 2 main positions the Bears are going to be looking to address, possibly cornerback, but I would think offensive tackle as well as the quarterback position in those first 2 rounds is probably the best way to go. But, if they want to trade up, they're probably going to have to give up that 2nd round pick. If they want to trade down, they could get a couple more picks and look for guys like cornerbacks and wide receivers and other positions they may need to address. So, Jaylen, I'm going to start with you. If you're Ryan Pace, how are you going to address the quarterback position in the draft this year? Are you looking to trade up? Are you looking to stay where you are? Are you looking to trade down? And who do you think you're keeping your eyes on for the Bears to pick this fall or this spring?
Okay, so before I answer the question, is it just me or is it draft coming up extremely quick? Compared to later years, like last year, when we were doing all the draft content and we were that's when we probably our biggest month ever on YouTube is when we started to blow up. It felt like the draft took forever to come, but I just looked up the draft is just over 2 weeks or just a little over 3 weeks away. That's crazy, especially because this year we actually have a first
March
round
Madness
pick.
Was so quick. It started 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh wow, that's over. So I guess everything's just moving quicker nowadays.
Yeah, I was like, dang, the draft is in 3 weeks. When I was a kid, it felt like it took forever for the draft to come. So, but answering this question, I definitely think we're gonna, no doubt about it, we're gonna address the quarterback situation in this draft. Now, whether it's the first round, we're probably not because of where we're at. Some people say top. The quarterback, 6 quarterbacks might go in the top 10, and that's with all the trade ups and the trade downs. Yeah. Going on, the Falcons are looking to trade down from the number 4 spot, and a lot of quarterback needy teams like the Broncos, like another team like the football team, maybe even us, looking to trade up for that 4th spot to get a Justin Fields, or something like that. So, do we address it in the first round? Is where the question mark's at, but definitely in the second, day 2, I wouldn't be surprised if we took a quarterback in day 2 of the NFL draft.
Who are you looking at?
Kellen Mond, man. I pray to God he falls to the 2nd round. Definitely a quarterback I've been looking into because it's more realistic for us to actually get him. Obviously I was paying attention to Mac Jones at the beginning of the draft process, but he's probably going number 3 right now. And Kyle Trask, I was interested in him, but he's definitely starting to fall down the draft board. So it's definitely Kellen Mond for me, or Mills from Stanford, but Kellen Mond is my number 1 quarterback for realistic options for the Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on the head. I like Kellen Mond a lot. If we're trading up, I think it would probably have to be for Justin Fields. I don't know if you try and trade up to 4 or if you try and trade up to 8, maybe with Carolina to get up. But and it's interesting because there was a source this morning saying that the Detroit Lions would possibly take a quarterback at 7. So If you're trading up, you'd have to give up a whole lot. But I like David Mills out of Stanford a lot. Just over 1,500 passing yards and 7 touchdowns in the couple of games he played for the Stanford Cardinal in 2020. So he's an interesting one as well. I still like Trask, Mond, as well as Mills in the second round. So I think the Bears, I think their best bet is probably go an offensive tackle in the first round. I don't think you can miss on any of those guys. There's a lot of plug-and-play players. And then I think you've got to go for one of these guys in the second round and see how it works out. But it seems like earlier on in the offseason, we thought a lot of these quarterbacks were maybe going to slip, and then all these trades happened in the past couple of weeks. And it seems like there's a lot of quarterbacks that are probably going to go in the top 5, so it should be interesting to see how it works out. But Parth, I'm going to pass it around to you before we close this one out. If you're the Bears, if you're Ryan Pace, how are you going to address the quarterback position in the upcoming draft?
I'm looking to trade up. I'm going to be completely honest. I think the best bet for the Bears is to get the guy that they want. Personally, I'm really high on Mac Jones right now. I think his deep ball is the best out of any quarterback that's coming in. I do understand he played with the wide receivers at Alabama and the talent around him is really well. But the dude can throw the ball. He's got some really good accuracy.
Are you trading up to 4 for him?
No.
Bro, I'm gonna tell y'all this right now. The 49ers traded up for Mac Jones, bro.
If the 49ers take Mac Jones, we'll have Justin Fields sitting around 8.
Or Trey Lance.
Exactly. So I think the Bears can easily offer a trade to the Panthers. I mean, in 2017, the Bills traded out with Mahomes and the Chiefs traded. I think it was the Bills gave the Chiefs the 10th pick, and Kansas City gave them the 27th pick, 2017 third round, and a 2018 first round. If the Bears can do something like that for the 8th pick in the draft, I would be down. I think Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or even Justin Fields at that point would be a really good choice.
Well, it should be interesting to see how the Chicago Bears go about the quarterback position this offseason, but these things are definitely far from over. We've got a long ways to go, and we will be keeping you guys posted and probably doing a lot of videos on all these quarterback prospects throughout the month of April. It should be interesting, and we're going to keep draft coverage coming to you guys. So if you want Bears videos every day of the week, do us a favor, subscribe, and like whatever platform you are listening on. We are going to be trying to get back to posting videos every day of the week and doing what we love. If you want more content, head over to our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs every day of the week. Trying to get back consistently on there as well. It's been inconsistent throughout the offseason, but trying to get back to some sort of consistency on there as well to get you guys some extra content. If you would like to find the podcast on social media, you can find it on Instagram and Twitter at Bear Down. We're going to start doing giveaways sometime this summer. We try and do a giveaway every month of the season, so be sure to look out for that. We definitely would like to do giveaways. Do you guys give back to the guys that support us? So be sure to go check us out on social media. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages, our personal stuff, down in the description. You can see our thoughts on the entire National Football League, all of Chicago sports, all of professional sports, and just about everything in between. So be sure to go drop us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Parth Shaw, Jaylen McClinton. It has been a fat minute since we have done this, but it feels good to be back in a groove. Hopefully we can start doing this consistently. I think things are getting more intriguing as well heading up to the draft. But any last words before we close this one out?
It's been so long since we recorded. I enjoyed this. I can't lie. I miss recording. But yeah, I'm excited for this off season. White Sox are back into swing. Big baseball fan, and follow us on Twitter. I think that's probably the best place to follow all of us. That's where we are always saying our thoughts, basically live. It's the easiest. I know me and Chris are on there very often. So.
Yep, Jim. What's so funny,
bro? I was watching Sam. So somebody recorded Sam Darnold once he got the news, bro was jumping up and down, he was super excited to get out of New York. That is hilarious. But it's glad, I'm glad to be back. Hopefully we get back to more consistent posting, especially because we're almost out of school. I think I have a month and a half for me. And I know you guys are actually shorter because you're in college. So back to the grind. It's been a long off season, especially with all people feel like that, the Bears aren't really making any moves, and I can understand that, especially because we've been 8-8 the last 2 seasons. At least a good thing is we can't go 8-8 this season because we play 17 games. So, but other than that, bear down, and that's about it.
Yeah, definitely feels good to be back. Hopefully we can get back into consistent swing of things. We've got about 6 or so more weeks of school. I've had a ton on my plate with Greek life, member of men's tennis team, so that's been a lot as well. But hopefully trying to come to you guys consistently. Our goal is always to post just a video a day, so we're going to try and get back on that for you guys, getting you guys the best and the most Bears content on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malpe, and Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.